leaving the story. Had just done Lenny's video the day before. Coincidentally, he called Jean-Baptiste, my friend, the photographer. He said he was with me, put me on the phone, and literally, that was in September 2008, and from that night on, we never stopped doing stuff. It was crazy. It was like we had always, I mean, he said he was doing this funk album, Negrophilia, which still hasn't come out. And you hear me laughing in the movie because Lenny's been saying this record's coming out since 1995 or 94, and that's why you hear me laughing in the movie. And I say, you know, look at the smile on Craig's face because we just know he's not putting this record out, but hopefully he will, and it's an incredible record. And so he had told me the day he worked on this funk album, because I'm known for my funk library, and I've worked on a million funk projects and compilations and box sets. And so he had said we'd work together on this project, and he's, you know, was true to his word, and basically ended up one night at a show, decided to take some pictures. I was going back to LA, I was in New York, going back to LA the next day, and he saw the pictures on the back of my camera after the show at the Fillmore in New York, which you see that little live clip that I was filming just for myself. And you know, it's funny, everything that is in the movie was not really planned to be a movie, so that was cool. And he saw the pictures on the back of the camera in the bus, in the tour bus after the show, and said, "When are you leaving?" I said, "Tomorrow." He's like, "You're not going anywhere, you're coming on tour with us." And then I became the photographer, and I was propelled to that, you know.
How do you uproot your life just like that?
You just do it.
You just do it?
And I did, yeah. And then, you know, we were talking one day, and he was calling a mutual friend, Mark Seliger, a photographer, to say, "Hey, hook me up with somebody to make a documentary on my next record. I want to document it. I want to do something, but it can't be, you know, the whole thing, and I don't want a whole production." And I was sitting across from him and looking at him like, "Hey, I can do it."
Sure.
I had no idea what I was doing, you know, but I did it. And the way we got into it was basically, I said, I want to do something that is not your traditional film experience. Like, I want to do something that there's no tripods, there's no lights. I mean, some of the footage is so grainy. I'm moving, I'm getting the Zoe birthday thing. You literally see me kind of getting on my knees to film it. We didn't cut all that stuff because I wanted people to experience it like you were at home, you know, like it was your life. I mean, it was my life. You know, I look at this movie, and that was my life for a few years, and I wanted people to experience it the same. So I didn't want it to be all like shiny and clean and
right.
super, you know, cinematic. And I think, you know, that came across.
What was the time span of filming?
The first time I got to the Bahamas was in February 2009 to produce Let Love Rule Deluxe Edition. So I went there to play some stuff I had found, and just, again, started filming for myself. All that footage of that song Push and Looking Back on Love was all just stuff I was filming. I guess it was predestined, but I didn't know why I was filming it, and he said he didn't mind me filming it. So that was February 2009, and we finished it in about August 2011.
Ballpark estimate, how many hours of footage did you shoot?
I came into the editing room with about 200 hours.
Okay, now this has got to be a documentarian's nightmare. You've got so much good stuff, but you only have so much time here. What were some of the nuggets that you weren't allowed to keep in there for the contract, you know, for the time?
I mean, there was some really funny stuff, you know, with Lee Daniels, the director of Precious, and he just did another film with Lenny called The Butler. That was just so wrong. Everything in that conversation was just so wrong. And talking about,
sir.
I can't. I mean, you know, it was involving certain people, and it was just the funniest, because Lee is just the funniest guy, and just will say, you know, whatever. He'll say anything, not caring who's around, who he's talking to. So, but I mean, there was a lot of stuff, you know, Lenny's frustration. I didn't really, you know, I didn't really want to, I wanted to show the experience as it was, but you can see that part where he says, you know, it's late, we've lost our mind. We had got into the studio, I'll never forget. He called me at around 10 a.m. saying, "Let's go into the studio, I'm feeling something." That was at 5 a.m. the next day, and we had not gone out of the room. It was just straight. And so some of that, the camera movement too is me literally falling asleep as I'm filming. I'm honest about that. And so, you know, there's sometimes where he was trying to get a groove and he doesn't get a groove, and he just, you know, just smash the drum, you know, stuff like that. But it's just, yeah, I mean, I think the stuff you see in there was a lot of footage of just dead space, you know, there's just a lot of tracking and coming up with stuff, and I think we really used, I mean, I'll probably do a director's cut at some point, that'll be 90 minutes or something, with some of the other footage. There was songs that didn't make it on the record, a couple of them you see in here, but.
How long does he go off the grid?
You mean like this?
Yeah.
Well, I just came back not long ago he's doing another, yesterday he told me he's doing 3 records now. So he goes off the grid. We were on tour I was with him on the tour for 2 years. And then next year is the 25th anniversary of his career. So I'm involved making another project, film project with him for the whole career. And then there's gonna be, tour and books and this and that. Working on the Are You Gonna Go My Way Deluxe Edition now. So he's there making music, and I decided this time with this new album that I started in Atlanta, I didn't need to I don't want to do this again. Next thing I do with him, I want something to, something different, so we don't need to document everything.
The conversations that you guys had about how close you were going to let him in, some shots were shot under his chin, right?
Yeah,
The microphone coming down. I mean, you got every conceivable angle.
Asleep in his bed in Paris, which was really, there's a couple times I really freaked him out. I mean, that was one of the times at the end of the Paris sequence where you see him asleep in his bed. He gave me the key and was like, do whatever you want. And he never expected me to be sitting in his room when he was sleeping. And so I'm sitting there on the floor, just filming. It's kind of I have footage of like this stupid long footage of him, sleeping. And then I hear this like mumbling thing, and then he opens his eyes. Motherfucker, what the fuck? He just looked at me like, what the fuck you doing? And I was like, you said all access, man. You said it was cool. So that was funny.
My girlfriend wanted to be Marilyn, the girl with the autograph and the hug. Talk about Lenny and his interaction with the fans.
That was so amazing. I mean, I'm so glad that there's a lot of stuff like that, and there's something about him. I've worked with a lot of different artists, but there's something about him where his fans really are the most important people. You can have the president of the label or whatever in the studio, and if there's a guy outside who happens to be nearby and wants to meet him, he'll come out, he'll meet them, he'll sign their stuff. He's very generous and very conscientious of the fact that those are the people that put him there. A lot of artists I see, don't have the longest lifespan because they realize that it's all about them, and they don't give the credit to the people. It's always about the people, and those are the real people. So if you don't acknowledge that by giving the love to even, God knows sometimes you don't feel like it. Sometimes you're exhausted, you're pissed off, something happened in your life, something personal, but that's one thing I really admire, is that he always takes the time, to give back. And those women were just amazing. I mean, we were in a supermarket in New Orleans. In New Orleans. We were in the supermarket, and the woman, Ruth, the one that was inside the car, just kind of like called, like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "It's so cool to see women that age that are total fans, and even for him, because he goes from the little kids to those women. I mean, it's amazing, but yeah, it's super cool for them.
I know a lot of the ladies enjoy the aloe vera shampoo.
The shakeout.
No shirt. You captured some magic there. You tell me about that day.
It didn't look the same when I did it, I'm sorry to say, but I did do it. I mean, there's something he does, there's something the locals do, the aloe vera scrub, and that was just, I was staying on that farm, that's where I live when I'm there, so he's got this big farm, and then he's got this beach property, and that was just, it was just a fun thing to capture. And the guy Vado, DJ Military, who you see, which is so cool. I mean, that's another example of Lenny. He takes a local guy from the island who lives in a tiny little shack and put him on a record with Jay-Z, I mean, that's amazing, not only to put him on his record, but he puts him as like a featured guy. And then, you see Lenny rapping to Jay-Z's part in the car, but I mean, how cool is that? That's what I love about him too. He doesn't care. It doesn't have to be this one or that one. If he's moved by somebody and somebody's known for 20 some years, he puts him on the record, it's just great. So I don't know what the question about the shakeout, I mean, about, he's got a 6-pack, that's. Yeah.
You're watching, I'm watching. What's the magic of Lenny? You've observed him now so closely for so long.
I mean, the magic of Lenny, I guess, is what I tried to show in here is that I do think as big a superstar as he is, there's a lot of aspects of Lenny that are underrated. the fact that he's such a multi-instrumentalist. A lot of people don't realize it until they see this, that he plays all the instruments, you know, most of the instruments on the record when he's cutting a track. But really the human, the down-to-earth guy, that's what I love about, you know, a guy who sold 40 million, he just got to 40 million records sold. That's a lot of records, you know, in anybody's career. And still can really be so down to earth and enjoy, like, going back to the theme of meeting people on the street. And, you know, I just like the fact that he doesn't, you know, people always think he doesn't have bodyguards. They always think I'm the bodyguard. And in some cases I've actually had to be the bodyguard, which, you know, it's good to be a big guy, but.
What, did you put yourself in harm's way?
Yeah, a couple times, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I had a very bloody neck once from a girl that tried to jump on him. And
How freaked out are these?
and I got her phone number out.
Ah, baby.
But, no, yeah, they get crazy. They get really crazy.
Wow.
And what's funny is, like, being who I am and doing the stuff I do with people like him, then you get crazies yourself, and that's really strange. You know, the level of that's another film I want to make about fans. If, you know, that's one of my next projects.
The 198 hours of footage that we didn't get to see, will it live anywhere?
It's living in my storage space currently. Yeah.
You think maybe in 10 years you might have something else?
I mean, yeah, you know, there's a lot of stuff. Like I said, I've also filmed countless shows. I mean, the whole last tour we filmed. So I've got gold. I mean, I've got certain things like we did this impromptu jam in Byron Bay, Australia last year. Most magnificent place on earth. If anybody has a chance, the most beautiful beach in the world I ever saw. Where we ended up running into John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, this guy C6 Steve, musician who plays with Jack White a lot, and Wolfmother, the guy, the Australian band, and ended up doing a jam session that I filmed entirely. That's the most incredible impromptu jam session, you know, Led Zeppelin bass player and Lenny on the drums, and so stuff like that I'm gonna do something with, yeah.
What was the greatest magic moment you didn't think you could ever get on film and did? And what was a magic moment where you kind of fucked up and maybe the camera went bad and you missed something?
Oh, you know how many times Lenny called me, you missed it, dude, you missed it. You know, we just did this thing in back, you missed it. Just because I went to sleep for 2 hours, you know. There was, well, I caught a little tail end of his Prince impersonation where he's, you know, at the end of the Come On Get It thing where he says, you know, girl, don't you know I'd smack the waves at your head? You know, that's from Under the Cherry Moon, and we're both big Prince fans, so that was, so I missed the whole Prince impersonation, which was quite amazing. By the time I had the camera on, I just got, you know, the tail end. No, there was, you know, I was really there so much. I don't think I missed much. You know, you know, a couple times I had one whole tape. There was no sound. Somehow the tape messed up, and of course that was the tape Lenny said was, you know, that was the best stuff. You know? We have, you know, I'm Jewish. He's half Jewish. We have the Jewish guilt thing down. But yeah, the most amazing thing for me out of the entire experience was becoming friends with Herman Leonard, who is such an icon. I mean, to me, he's like, you know, the god of photography. And to end up, you know, I was in boarding school when I was 10. I had a poster of Herman Leonard photo on my wall, and was a huge fan. And then just to end up on this island and then spending every morning having breakfast with this guy for 2 weeks, and, you know, getting to know him and photographing him. I actually have a magazine cover shot of him, and he gave me a lot of love for my photography, and you know, that to me was personally the highlight of the whole experience, is to see how he associates himself with people like that. You know, you saw Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz in the studio. I mean, you never know who's going to show up, and that's always cool.
Well, as a photographer with him, I think you went full circle in that, and it was a beautiful touch up there, and I know he's looking back and looking down on this one. Nice job, Mathieu Bitton.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to do this all again, so
That's a different question.
I'll try. Thank you, everybody. Drive safe, and don't worry. The movie is on iTunes right now.